The story of Megumi Fushiguro, Jujutsu Kaisen. Megumi is one of the main characters in JJK, a first-year student at Tokyo Jujutsu High, and also a descendant of the Zenin family. In this video, we'll be explaining Megumi Fushiguro's entire story from Jujutsu Kaisen, beginning with the anime, working our way up to the current events from the manga. When Megumi was in elementary school, his father married Sumiki's mother. When their parents died, Gojo stepped in and had the college support Megumi and his sister instead of Megumi heading to the Zenin family. It is also known that Megumi once attended Saitama Yorami East Junior High School, often getting himself into a lot of fights. He usually was scolded by his older stepsister Sumiki for his rash actions. Megumi is sent on a mission to Sugisawa 3rd High School to retrieve a cursed object. Megumi arrives at the high school and finds that the cursed object is not there. He calls his superiors to inform them about the situation, to which his superiors tell him that he can't go home until he finds the object.
I'm seriously going to punch him.
The next day, Megumi is shown walking around the school and comes across multiple curses. Megumi wonders if there is a dead body in the school or if the cursed object is attracting the spirits. He wonders what to do when he comes across Yuji. Fushiguro notices the presence of the cursed object on Yuji and decides to follow him, track him to the hospital, and eventually meet with him. Megumi explains what the object is to Yuji, but finds out that Yuji doesn't have the object and it was the only remaining cursed energy on the box. As a result, Yuji informs Megumi that his senpais are going to unseal the object tonight at the school, which the two quickly rush over to. Once they've reached the school, Megumi tells Yuji to stay inside as he heads inside. As Megumi enters the school, he encounters multiple cursed spirits and uses his shikigamis to exorcise them. Megumi manages to locate Yuji's friends, but he notices that he can't rescue them in time. Suddenly, Yuji shows up by crashing through a window and manages to rescue his friends. Megumi uses this chance to exorcise the spirit. The two then assess the situation in front of them until they are suddenly attacked by another spirit. Fushiguro tries to take on the spirit alone, but the spirit is easily able to overwhelm him. Yuji comes to Megumi's rescue, but the spirit easily counters Yuji. Yuji asks why the spirit wants the finger, to which Megumi tells him that the spirit wants to eat the finger in order to get stronger. Megumi then watches as Yuji eats the finger and Sukuna is incarnated. Megumi also watches as Sukuna takes down the spirit and plans to start a massacre. Megumi tells him that he will have to exorcise him. Suddenly, Gojo shows up and asks about what is going on. After Gojo is informed, Megumi is given the mochi that Gojo had brought to him to hold on to, while he faces off against Sukuna. Megumi then watches as Gojo takes on Sukuna and how Yuji manages to take back his body within 10 seconds. After Gojo knocks Yuji out, he asks Megumi what he thinks about Sukuna and Yuji, which Megumi asks for Gojo to help Yuji out. The next day, after getting healed, Megumi meets up with Gojo and Yuji and informs Yuji that he is going to enroll at the same college he attends. Days later, Megumi returns to the college and takes a nap in his room at the dorms. Later, when Yuji moves into the room next to his, Megumi wakes up and finds out about it and becomes annoyed. Megumi then listens as Gojo informs them that they will be heading out to pick out the last of the first years tomorrow. The next day, Megumi and Yuji talk about how there are a few shamans and how the last first year student is coming to the school so late. Gojo arrives as they head out to Harajuku, which Megumi asks why they are picking her up at Harajuku. Once they arrive, the three manage to locate Nobara. After they each introduce themselves, they all head to Roppongi for a mission. When they arrive at the location for the mission, Gojo has Nobara and Yuji head inside while he and Megumi stay outside. Once Nobara and Yuji head inside, Megumi says that he will head inside as well to help too, but Gojo tells him that it's a test for Nobara and Yuji. When one of the spirits tries to escape, Megumi goes to exorcise it, but Gojo stops him, telling him that this is a test for Nobara. After the mission is complete, Megumi heads out to eat with the others. A month later, Megumi attends a mission at a detention center along with Yuji and Nobara. Kiyotaka informs them about the circumstances of the mission, which the three head into the center once Kiyotaka is finished with casting the curtain. As they head into the center, Megumi summons one of his shikigami in order to locate spirits that are nearby. Suddenly, they notice that the exit has disappeared, but Fushiguro informs the others that his shikigami can locate the exit. As the three of them head deeper into the center, they come across some corpses. When one of the corpses turns out to be the son that a parent is worried about, Yuji wants to take him back, but Megumi tells him to leave it. The two then get into an argument, but stops when Nobara is taken away. Megumi notices that his shikigami is destroyed and tries to tell Yuji to leave, but a powerful spirit shows up. Yuji convinces Megumi to go rescue Nobara while he distracts the spirit, and Megumi takes the name tag of the person before he leaves. Megumi manages to locate Nobara and rescues her from some spirits. Once he gets Nobara out of the center, Megumi gives Yuji that signal to let Sukuna take over his body. As Kiyotaka takes Nobara to the hospital, Megumi stays behind to wait for Yuji. When the spirit has been dealt with, Sukuna appears before Megumi. The two talk, which Sukuna decides to take takes Yuji hostage and tries to kill Megumi. Megumi attacks Sukuna with multiple Shikigami, but Sukuna easily defeats them. Megumi is easily overwhelmed by Sukuna and tossed around. After talking with Sukuna again, Megumi finds his resolve again, but Yuji manages to take back his body. He manages to speak out his final words to Megumi before dying afterwards. The next day, Megumi is mourning over Yuji's death with Nobara when Maki, Panda, and Toge appear before them. Nobara wonders who they are, to which Megumi informs that they are the school's second years. He also tells her that there is a fourth one, but he is overseas right now. The second years ask them to join the Kyoto Goodwill event, which Nobara wonders what that is. Megumi and the second years inform her what the Kyoto Goodwill event is, and Nobara and Megumi agree to join them. Megumi and Nobara also say that they are going to train for the event, to which the second years agree to help them. On another day, Megumi informs the mother of the deceased person at the detention center that their son had died before they found him. Megumi hands her the name tag that he was able to retrieve and apologizes for not saving him. Later, Megumi meets up with the second years and Nobara. Megumi then begins to train with Maki on how to handle a weapon. After a while, all of them take a break and Megumi asks Maki about what she does when she carries more than one weapon. When Panda and Maki tell him what other shaman do to carry their weapon, Megumi thinks about how he was asked about why he ran from a high-grade spirit. He figures something out and places his hand within his shadow and proceeds to tell Maki he has an idea. A few days later, Megumi and Nobara are confronted by Kyoto students, Todo and Mai. Megumi asks why they are here, to which Mai replies that they are worried about them, but instead just simply insult Yuji. This greatly annoys both Megumi and Nobara for mocking their friend's demise. Todo then says he wants to test them out, and asks what type of girl is Megumi's type. Then he explains why he asked that. Megumi gives an answer that Todo doesn't like, which causes Todo to attack him. Megumi tries to attack with his Shikigamis, but Todo easily overpowers him. Megumi manages to restrain Todo, but Panda and Toge show up to stop the fight. On the day of the Kyoto Goodwill event, Megumi is with the other Tokyo students when the student and faculty of the Kyoto school shows up. When Gojo shows up and reveals that Yuji is still alive, Megumi is shocked by this news. After the faculty explains the rules of the event, Megumi attends a meeting with the other Tokyo students where they discuss their plans for the event. After the meeting, Megumi asks Yuji if something had happened to him, which Yuji tells him that something did happen, but he is fine now. When the event starts, Megumi travels with the rest of the Tokyo students in a group while using his Shikigami to track down the cursed spirits. When Todo suddenly shows up, Megumi splits from the group with Maki. After splitting up, Megumi talks with Maki about how the Kyoto students might be planning to kill Yuji, which they decide to head back and support Yuji. Megumi has his new Shikigami attack Momo while he confronts Noritoshi. The two continue to battle, which results in them entering a building. Megumi figures out that the arrow that Noritoshi is firing are coated with his blood and thinks about how Noritoshi's ability works. Megumi gets distracted by the falling rubble, which Noritoshi uses this chance to get close to Megumi. As Noritoshi fights Megumi in hand-to-hand combat, Megumi figures that Noritoshi is manipulating his blood to increase his capabilities. Megumi manages to force Noritoshi away, and they have a short conversation. Fushiguro manages to distract him with one of his Shikigami, which allows him to use his Max Elephant Shikigami to force Kamo into a wide open area. He then launches his new Shikigami at Kamo, but he uses his blood to restrain the Shikigami. Before the two can face off again, Toge and Hanami shows up and Toge forces them to run using his cursed speech. Megumi, Toge, and Noritoshi discusses what to do when Hanami suddenly attacks them. Toge restrains Hanami, which Megumi and Noritoshi attack, but it does nothing. Hanami then explains his reason for wanting to kill all the humans to the three, and the three run from Hanami. The three uses this chance to attack Hanami. Toge would stop Hanami while the other two would attack Hanami. They manage to figure out that Hanami's weak point is the branches on his head, and if they can get out of the screen. The three plans to corner Hanami, but Toge's throat gives out, and Megumi's new Shikigami is defeated. Hanami lands a blow on Noritoshi, but Megumi rescues him before Hanami can finish him off. Megumi plans to attack Hanami, but Toge stops him and uses the last of his strength to send Hanami away, although not far. Maki then suddenly shows up and attacks Hanami. Megumi uses this chance to land a blow on Hanami's weak point. The two then attack Hanami, with Megumi using his Shikigami Divine Dog Totality on the cursed spirit. Megumi and Maki manage to land a few blows on Hanami, but Hanami manages to plant a cursed energy feeding seed in Megumi. As Maki continues to fight Hanami, Megumi decides to try and continue to attack, but Maki stops him, saying it's time for them to tap out. Suddenly, Yuji and Todo show up to rescue them, with Megumi catching sight of Yuji's new strength. Megumi and Maki are then handed over to Panda, where they're taken out of the screen to receive help.
Panda!
After the intruders have been dealt with, Megumi is recovering where he is visited by Yuji and Nobara. The three discuss about what had happened during the event and how they are all going to get stronger. Later, Megumi attends a meeting with everyone else where they all decide to continue the event. When it's decided that they will be playing baseball, Megumi's position is outfielder. When Maki hits Todo in the face with the ball, Megumi compliments Maki for the pitch. The Tokyo students then manage to win the game. The day after the Kyoto Goodwill event, Megumi is being driven to another mission by Nita with Yuji and Nobara. While on the way to the site of the investigation, Megumi and the others discuss the details of the investigation. Once they reach the site, they find out that there had been another victim and decide to investigate the school that all the victims had attended. Once they reach Saitama East Junior High, they find out that Megumi had once attended the school. After asking around, they find a lead at the Yasuhachi Bridge. The three decide to investigate the site, but after hours of investigating, they find no cursed energy. While discussing at a convenience store when some students of the junior high show up. One of the students revealed that she is going through the same as the victims and that Megumi's sister might be going through the same thing. After finding this out, Fushiguro checks up on his sister and has guards to protect her. Then he asks Yuji and Nobara to head home while he decides to investigate the site alone. Later that night, Megumi is investigating under the bridge when Yuji and Nobara show up. After Megumi explains his reasoning for investigating alone, the three cross the river and enter the spirit's territory. When Kechisu suddenly shows up, Megumi and Nobara take on the spirit while Yuji handles Kechisu alone. Megumi and Nobara try to exorcise the spirit but can't seem to hit it. Nobara is then suddenly dragged out of the territory, which Megumi tries to stop but fails to.
Damn it! She keeps getting sucked into things.
Megumi then tells Yuji to go help Nobara while he takes care of the spirit. While taking on the spirit, Megumi figures out that the spirit has one of Sukuna's fingers and it appears before him. As Megumi takes on the spirit manages to easily overwhelm Megumi. Megumi remembers what Gojo has taught him after the Kyoto Goodwill event and decides to fight seriously. Megumi uses his domain expansion to cover the area with his shadow. As Megumi is able to overwhelm the spirit forces the shadows away. Megumi appears from the spirit's shadow and rips the finger out of the spirit. As the spirit is exorcised, the territory fades away and Megumi falls unconscious after thinking about his sister. After Yuji Nobara finishes taking care of Isu and Kechisu, they check up on Megumi and find that he is still alive. They then discuss what to do with the finger, which Megumi decides to have Yuji hang on to it but not eat it, since Yuji looks the most okay. As Megumi hands Yuji the finger, Sukuna has a mouth appear on Yuji's palm and eats the finger. Megumi gets angry about this, but Akari shows up and the three leave the area. 2 days later, Megumi discussed with Nobara about how the Yasuhachi Bridge incident was triggered by Yuji eating Sukuna's finger. After explaining this to Nobara, he tells her to not tell Yuji. Later, Megumi is nominated by Todo for promotion to grade 1 sorcerer. Sometime later, Megumi along with Yuji and Nobara meets up with Gojo, who takes them to meet up with Urahime. Once they meet up with Urahime tells them that they are going to inspect one of the people that they believe is the mole. Urahime informs them that they suspect Kokichi Muda, the real identity of Mekamaru, while also explaining how his ability works. When they reach Muda's location and break into the room, they find that he isn't there. On October 31st, Megumi is with Nanami and Takuma at the Tokyo Metro Shibuya station near exit 13, as they are informed about the situation in Shibuya. After hearing of this, Takuma tells Megumi everything he knows about the curtain to try and impress him, but Megumi says that he already knows all of that. Later, when the people in the screen are attacked by mutated humans, Megumi, along with Takuma and Nanami, heads into the screen to protect the people. As they head back into the screen, Megumi and Nanami discuss why the civilians are being attacked by mutated humans now. When Yuji announces what had happened to Gojo, Megumi along with Takuma and Nanami head to Yuji's location. Once they reach Yuji's location, Megumi listens while Muta explains everything and what they should do next. After listening to everything, Nanami has Megumi, Takuma, and Yuji head out to bring the screens while he heads out to meet with Kiyotaka. After Nanami leaves, Takuma explains how there are 2 problems with Gojo being sealed. All of the people that Gojo has saved are in danger by the authorities of the college, and that they would lose a war with those that have stayed in the shadows because of Gojo, which they are dealing with in the first place. After Takuma is done explaining how dangerous it is for humanity, the 3 head out to deal with the screen. As the 3 try to break into the second screen, they realize that the screen is too strong to break through. Then they discuss how they can slip through the screen, but Takuma explains how the screen works and that the caster of the screen is most likely inside the screen. Suddenly, Takuma realizes that the caster might be outside of the screen, since the screen will become stronger if the caster is put more at risk. Megumi says that the enemy would be somewhat obvious, which Yuji figures that the caster is at the Shibuya Tower. Megumi uses Nu to get them to the top of the Shibuya Tower and they manage to find the enemies. As Megumi Megumi and Yuji distract the enemies, Takuma manages to break one of the cursed tools that had put up the screen. When they figure that one of the enemies, Awasaka, has taken the other two cursed tools that are keeping up the screens, Megumi and Yuji wrap Awasaka with wire and toss him off the tower. Megumi and Yuji then head to where Awasaka has fallen and find out that he is still alive. As Awasaka get ready to fight the two, Megumi and Yuji prepare to fight him. As Megumi and Yuji fight Awasaka, they notice that their attacks are not working against him. Megumi and Yuji continue to fight Awasaka, but notice that the enemy is just too tough. Megumi figures out that Awasaka's toughness must be related to the curse technique, but suddenly gets an idea. Megumi tells Awasaka that Gojo is in Shibuya and that he should leave, but Awasaka says that he already knows that Gojo had been sealed and that it's the reason that they are even here in the first place. Megumi figures out that Awasaka can't defeat Gojo and also thinks about what his technique might be. When Awasaka says that it's about time that he kill them, Megumi uses rapid escape as a distraction to escape with Yuji, while saying that he has figured out what Awasaka's technique is. Megumi explains to Yuji how Awasaka's technique might be able to reverse the power that he is hit with. Then they need to talk about what they need to do to defeat Awasaka. Once they are done, Megumi deactivates rapid escape and drops Max Elephant on top of Awasaka. Megumi deactivates Max Elephant and distances himself, which annoys Awasaka. Awasaka then tells Megumi to face him like a man. Megumi says that is more of Yuji's fighting style, which prompts Yuji to attack Awasaka. After realizing Awasaka's curse technique is inverse, Megumi and Yuji then attack Awasaka together, distracting Awasaka enough for Megumi's Toad weak attack to harm him. Megumi and Yuji continue to injure Awasaka with strong attacks at the same time. As Awasaka gets angry at the two, he is defeated by Yuji. After Awasaka is defeated, Megumi comments about how Yuji can use refined attacks well. After tying up Awasaka, Megumi and Yuji break the cursed objects keeping the screen up, but notice that only one of the curtains had come down. The two talk, but Megumi notices that Takuma had been thrown off of the tower and Megumi and Yuji quickly rescue him. The two then discuss what to do next, which Megumi decides to take Takuma to get some medical treatment. After getting Takuma to safety, he heads towards the station. Once at the station, Megumi finds his way to Dagon's domain expansion and manages to break in to deliver Maki the special grade curse tool, Roaming Cloud. Megumi then uses his domain to create a hole so that they can escape through, but they are all surprised when Toji suddenly comes through it. Megumi informs Nanami about how the portal he created has closed and figures that Dagon won't let them open another portal. Megumi then continues to activate his domain while watching Toji fight Dagon. Nanami asks if Megumi can keep it up, which Megumi replies that he can keep it up for a bit. Once Toji finishes exercising Dagon, Megumi wonders whose side Toji is on. Suddenly, Toji grabs Megumi and drags him to another location to fight. Megumi notices that Toji is extremely fast and wonders just who Toji is. Megumi thinks about how he should fight his opponent and summons a swarm of escape rabbits. Suddenly, Megumi notices Sukuna's presence, giving Toji a chance to attack. Megumi escapes the attack and thinks about what he is capable of right now. Megumi quickly runs down an alley and thinks about how he has to limit his opponent's attack options. As Toji attacks, he gets caught in Megumi's trap, causing his attack to miss Megumi. Megumi goes to attack, but Toji easily dodges and distances himself. Megumi wonders what to do next when Toji suddenly asks who Megumi is. Megumi tells him his last name. Toji is glad to hear his name and stabs himself in the head, which shocks Megumi. Megumi then checks on the body and notices that it has changed shape. Megumi decides to ignore it and go get healed, but is suddenly attacked by Haruda. Megumi retreats and comments on how to obtain more Shikigami for the 10 Shadows technique. Megumi collapses and states how it's pointless to have multiple shamans exercise the Shikigami since it would nullify the technique, but says that the pointless exorcism does have its uses. Megumi thinks back to when Gojo informed him how the heads of the Gojo family who possessed the Limitless and Six Eyes techniques, and the Zenin family who possesses the 10 Shadows technique had killed each other in a battle. Megumi figures out that a previous head of the Zenin family had used it like this too, so Megumi starts to summon a Shikigami. As Haruda wonders what is going on, Megumi explains how a user of the 10 Shadows technique can summon a Shikigami at any time in order to exercise it. The shaman figures out what Megumi is doing and tries to stop him, but manages to summon 8-handled sword Divergent General Maharanga. Megumi then tells the shaman that he will be passing out first and Maharanga sends Megumi crashing into a wall. When Sukuna arrives at the site, Sukuna finds Megumi in a state of suspended death. Sukuna then heals Megumi and says that he still needs him for something. Once Maharanga is dealt with, Sukuna brings Megumi to where Masamichi and Shoko are at. Megumi walks into where Yuji is with Yuta and tells them to head back to Tokyo Jujutsu High. Megumi listens to what Yuji has to say before suddenly saying that it's our fault, not just Yuji's, that people were killed. Megumi tells Yuji to not be selfish and also adds that they're Jujutsu sorcerers and they aren't heroes fighting for justice. He says that they must prove their worth of existence and don't have the luxury of thinking about themselves. Megumi also adds that they just have to save people. Upon having Yuji tell Megumi that as long as he's around, he will suffer. Megumi tells Yuji to start off by saving him and reveals that Noritoshi Kamo has started a culling game for those involved with Jujutsu. He also says that Sumiki is involved in this and he needs Yuji's strength. After Yuji finishes talking to Yuta, he turns to Megumi and asks what he should do, which Megumi says that Megumi reveals that they will go back to Tokyo Jujutsu High and contact Master Tengen. He also adds that they will need to find out how to remove the seal on the prison realm and what are Noritoshi Kamo's objectives and future moves. Fushiguro says that the culling game is Jujutsu terrorism never like before, and to find questions to their answers, he believes that only Master Tengen knows. When Yuji asks if Yuki knows, Megumi reveals that he's already spoken to her about it and adds on that this was her idea. Yuta comments that the problem is Tengen's concealing barrier. Megumi tells Yuji that Yuki is hiding in Tokyo Jujutsu High as well, where Yuji wonders why she's hiding. Megumi tells him that she wants to avoid the Jujutsu higher-ups. He says that there are over 1,000 doors that are continuously shuffling and only one leads to where Master Tengen resides. Yuji then adds that if they don't choose the correct door, they won't be able to contact Master Tengen. Yuji then asks Megumi what happened to Nobara, who avoids looking directly at Yuji. Just then, Choso suddenly appears and says that there might be a way past the barrier, leaving Megumi shocked. Yuji asks what he meant, who reveals that Mahito was able to steal Sukuna's fingers along with the death painting wounds and that they can do the same thing. Now at Tokyo Jujutsu High, Maki asks about Tengen's barrier, and just as Megumi is about to explain, Choso places a hand on Megumi's shoulders and tells the latter he will explain. Choso reveals that he should be able to provide them guidance as to where Tengen's residence is. When Maki asks who Choso is, Megumi, Yuji, and Yuta stay quiet until Yuji says just to think of him as his older brother, which generates a surprise response from Choso. Megumi goes on ahead with Yuji, Maki, Yuki, and Yuta, where Choso follows closely behind and goes down the elevator to where Master Tengen is. Upon finding nothing, Yuta tells the group to head back as Sumiki doesn't have time, leaving Megumi disgruntled. Just then, Master Tengen appears and asks if they're leaving so soon before meeting the group. Yuki confronts Tengen and asks why they're not greeting her, in which Megumi is surprised to see Tengen. Tengen tells them that they were afraid they were aligned with Kenjaku, which Yuki wonders who they are. Tengen reveals that Kenjaku is the sorcerer who was once Noritoshi Kamo, but now is inhabiting Suguro Geto's body. Upon having Yuji suddenly ask why Master Tengen looks the way they do, Megumi thinks to himself about how much guts he has for cutting into an important conversation. Tengen reveals that although they are immortal, they are not immune to aging, which surprises Yuji. It was 11 years ago where they failed to merge with the star plasma vessel that their age accelerated and self-awareness as an individual diminished. Megumi and Yuta interrupts the conversation asking about Kenjaku's objectives and how to open the prison realm. Tengen tells them that they wish they could simply say yes, but there is one condition. Either Yuki Tsukumo, Yuta Okotsuku, or Choso are to remain as his two guards. Yuki objects to this as Tengen tells them that Kenjaku's objective is to force the evolution of all human beings throughout Japan. Megumi tells them that they are aware of this, but asks what exactly does Kenjaku intend on doing. Tengen explains how Kenjaku lacks the curse energy to do so. Someone asks why Kenjaku didn't use their barrier at that time in Japan into sorcerers via idol transfiguration. Tengen reveals that the method Kenjaku has chosen is to merge humankind with themselves. Yuji is shocked by this and asks if it's even possible, where Tengen confirmed. Choso asks how they can merge with multiple people even though they're only a single person. Tengen confirms that they are indeed one person, but due to them having evolved over the past 11 years, it would not be impossible for them to merge with someone other than a star plasma vessel. Tengen tells them that a human who merges with themselves transforms into something greater than a sorcerer as a new being that is both there and also not there. Tengen explains that they possess barrier techniques which enable them to maintain their current form and self-control even after evolving. They add on that if humankind evolves and only one person rages out, the world will end. Yuki asks them who says that the impurities of 100 million people would flood the world, which what happened in Tokyo would happen to the entire world as well. They add that there are no boundaries between individuals, so evil would instantly spread. When Maki asks why they would refuse to merge, Tengen says that is the problem. Yuji asks Tengen why Kenjaku would do this, who isn't sure why because they cannot read human hearts. Tengen tells the group that now that they're evolved, evolved, they are more cursed spirit than human, which makes them a target for cursed spirit manipulation, shocking everyone. Tengen tells them that considering Kenjaku's ability as a sorcerer, he might be able to seize them when they encounter each other. They add on that this is the reason why their main body is rejecting everything at the tombs of the Star Corridor. Yuta then asks if that's the reason why they want guards, which they confirm. Tengen tells them that Kenjaku is the second most powerful barrier user behind themselves and adds that they are unsure when he will undo the seal of the tombs. Yuki asks why now and adds on that Kenjaku prevented emerging with the Star Plasma Vessel, wants to consume and control them through curse manipulation, and also was involved with Sukuna, who he had been a sorcerer for over 1,000 years. Tengen says that themselves, the Star Plasma Vessel and the Six Eyes are all connected by faith. Tengen reveals that Kenjaku lost twice to a sorcerer with the Six Eyes, and on the second time he took no chances and killed both of the Star Plasma Vessel and the Six Eyes less than a month after they were born. On the day of the merging, both the Six Eyes and the Star Plasma Vessel appeared, which Kenjaku switched to sealing instead and thus began searching for the prison realm because two bearers of the Six Eyes cannot appear at the same time. However, the unexpected happened 11 years ago when Toji Zenin intervened. Megumi is confused by this but doesn't say anything. Tengen tells him that he was physically gifted through a heavenly restriction and was an anomaly who had zero curse energy and destroyed their destiny. Then came a boy with curse manipulation where all the pieces suddenly came together other than for the prison realm, which fell into his grasp 6 years ago. Megumi then asks why the calling game is happening. Tengen explains the calling game uses the participant and the boundaries binding barriers in a ritual that conveys to the human beings of this country to the other side. And with that, Kenjaku will begin the merging with themselves. However, to perform the ritual, he has undertaken certain binding vows. They add on that one stipulates that he isn't the game master and this game doesn't work in their favor because even if Kenjaku is killed, the calling game will continue until all participants are either dead or the players refuse to participate and die. Megumi is upset from learning of this. Yuta concludes that they have no other choice but to participate and add a rule that allows Sumiki and the other unwilling participants to safely get out. Megumi adds on that they should also free Gojo Sensei because he would be able to settle everything on his own. Yuji looks over at Master Tengen and asks for them to tell them, but they say to first decide who should remain as guards. Much to the surprise of both Yuji and Megumi, Yuki and Choso step up for that position. Choso tells Yuji he will absolutely need either Akotsuku or Yuki's cooperation, especially if Kenjaku comes for Tengen. Tengen thanks the group before pulling out a box that is the back of the prison realm. Megumi is shocked to hear that there is a back for the prison realm. Tengen explains that before Kenjaku found the prison realm, it was outside of the barrier, who believes it was overseas and reveals that by sealing the rear gate, they were hiding the existence of the front, but it was useless. Yuji asks if it's like a back gate, which Tengen confirms it is. Tengen tells him that Gojo is sealed inside of the rear gate as well, and that the authority of opening the gate rests with Kenjaku as he is the bearer point of the front. They add on that to break it open, they will need the inverted spear of heaven that nullifies curse techniques, and or the black rope that disrupts and cancels curse techniques effects. Yuji and Megumi are shocked because Gojo either sealed and or destroyed it 11 years ago, but Yuta tells them that he along with Miguel searched for it in Africa but to no avail. Yuki asks Tengen if there's a way who confirms there is. Tengen reveals that among the players participating in the calling game, there is a sorcerer from 1,000 years ago who calls herself an angel, and that her curse technique can extinguish any curse technique. Megumi is shocked to hear that Hanakurusu's curse technique allows for her to extinguish any curse technique and asks Master Tengen if they're aware where she is, who confirms. Tengen also adds on that with her curse technique, they will be able to open the back of the prison realm. Tengen tells them that she is on the colony of the east side of Tokyo, and due to the barrier rejecting themselves, they do not have any more information. They add on that there are 10 colonies around Japan and are connected by a barrier that sends humans in Japan to the other side. Yuki asks if Hokkaido isn't included because of the Jujutsu Society's barrier, which Tengen confirms and includes that it's already established as vast sacred area. Tengen tells them that conveyance to the other side may sound like an exaggeration, but a curse fell on everyone in Japan in preparation of the merger. Megumi asks how long the ritual will take, where Tengen tells him that it depends on the game, but 2 months should be enough. Megumi says that Sumiki has roughly 10 days and 15 hours to declare her participation. He turns over to Master Tengen and says that they mentioned that refusing to participate would result in death, which Tengen confirms. Maki tells him that Shoko was correct and adds on that sorcerers such as herself without a curse technique aren't at risk. Yuji wonders about the civilians already inside of the barrier, where Tengen tells them that they will be given one chance to leave, much to Yuji's surprise. Tengen says that there aren't any rules at entering or exiting a colony and adds that players are given a clear objective of exiting the barrier. They add on, in order to confine the players, the premise that they entered of their own free will is important. Rule 5 of the calling game is revealed, where sorcerers are worth 5 points whereas non-sorcerers are worth 1 point. Yuji comments on how it seems a bit vague. Megumi asks about the game master, which Tengen tells them that each player will receive a shikigami that's called a kogane. Tengen adds that a Kogane is less game master than an interface. They say that they may think of the game master as the colon game programmer, which confuses Yuji. Yuji says that they're unable to subtract rules that have already exist, while Megumi says that there are ways to counteract the rules. Yuji is disappointed that he will be forced to kill people again, as Megumi tells him that he has a few ideas. Maki tells the group that she will head to the Zenin family's warehouse and collect cursed tools, and also adds that Megumi is the current family leader, to Yuji's shock, as Megumi tells him he'll explain later. Maki then asks Yuta what he'll do, who says that he will enter a colony and enter the game immediately before Sumiki, Fushiguro, and the other participants gather more information, where Megumi thanks him. When Yuta and Yuji realize that if Sukuna were to take over Yuji's body, they would need Yuta to kill him, but Megumi smacks Yuji and assures him it won't happen. He adds on that if it does happen and he dies, he tells Yuji to just have Yuta kill him. Yuji's angry at Megumi and that the point of it is to not let it happen, as Megumi turns over to Maki and Yuta, as Maki tells him to go look for Kinji as planned. The group then heads out in preparation, while leaving Yuki and Chozo behind to guard Master Tengen. Before leaving the shrine, Master Tengen told Megumi and Yuji that Kinji is making money as a bookie for an underground fight club. They also add on that the spectators are mostly non-sorcerers and possibly curse users among the crowd. While Megumi and Yuji recruit Kenji, Kenjaku's colon game has begun. What troubles will arise for Megumi there? If you enjoyed this video, how about checking out the story of Satoru Gojo, the strongest sorcerer known to existence, which you can click right here.